Welcome to another edition of Maxwell Senior Moments. As you have probably determined from previous episodes, I'm a big proponent of planning and preparing, and so that we are not caught off guard with things that come out of left field. And today I am pleased to have Jim Miskell with the Estate Planning Law Group of Georgia, and we're going to have probably a wide ranging discussion that I suspect will run into two parts if you're willing to stick around, and we're going to be talking about estate planning. Let's just start off. What is estate planning and why is it important?
Great question. So, estate planning, eh, you can get hung up on what happens to my stuff when I die,
hmm
which is part of it. But
Wait, you
that's not,
mean people are going to die?
well, that's
It's going to happen, right?
sad but true. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
got a plan for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, the idea is what happens to my stuff when I die, but really that's only part of the story. It's also what systems you've got in place to make sure that you've got the helpers you need if you become disabled. As we age, unfortunately, well, I guess aging beats the alternative. But as we age, sometimes we have senior moments. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need helpers. And as we age, decisions are going to get made. Estate planning is making sure that the decisions that get made are yours and not somebody else's.
Okay, all right.
So there's really two pieces to it. It's from now until death occurs, and then what happens to your stuff after you die. So really,
Okay. I know I'm kind of talking about hinting at old people. I'm old, but it's not really for old people. It's for who?
well, it's for I hate to say everybody, but really everybody who's over 18. Until we're 18, until our 18th birthday, mom and dad are our natural agents. That means that they can go back with the dentist and tell them to do the fluoride rinse. They can go in the doctor's office and be in on all those conversations. They can contract for us. They can buy us a car. Those sorts of things. The day we turn 18, we become independent folks, and parental rights go away, and they're not automatically legal and legal guardians. And so at that point, anybody can become disabled. So, you hear about kids going away to college and accidents can happen there. And if they're in the health center, this sounds funny, but we have what I call the 18-year-old birthday package, which is very exciting for kids. There's nothing they want to do on their 18th birthday more than come to see a lawyer. But the 18th-year-old birthday package is a power of attorney and healthcare directive tailored for young folks, just so if something occurs, mom and dad still have the authority to get in there and help them without any hassles.
Okay, so let's let's go down a different path. Let's say someone is married, has kids, has a house, but they haven't prepared a will. What happens?
So that's I like to call that Plan C. Plan C will take over. You know how I said as we age or when crisis strikes, decisions are going to get made. And that's what the Georgia Code is. In our case, the state of Georgia. That's what the Georgia Code is all about. Is it lays out ways for those decisions to get made. The difficulty with the Georgia Code is that the legislature's never met your family. They don't know what's important to you. A lot of times it's other family members who you may or may not want to be involved, get involved. And it can be judges who's maybe lovely people, but have never met you, never met your family,
Mhm.
trying to make these decisions. So in the case of a young married couple, if one of them were to die, to be killed in an accident, rather than having a will say, I want everything to go to my spouse, the Georgia Code would actually divide things up, equal shares between the children and the surviving spouse, which is very seldom what parents of young kids want.
Mhm.
Eh, About two or three times every year, we're involved in a situation where we're unwinding a situation where a widowed spouse now owns substantial property with minors, 8 and 12-year-old kids. Uh, and usually there's nobody to object to unwinding it and getting back in the parent's name, but it's a big hassle for the family and
Mhm.
can cause a lot of problems and unintended consequences. So just a basic will in place for that young married couple with kids can save that heartache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we helped a family. We helped this woman buy her first home. She was divorced, bought her first home when she was roughly 50 years old, and she was approaching the 1 year anniversary of her home ownership. And I was reaching out to her only to discover that she had passed away
Oh,
intestate. And she had a college age son, and just the heartache and stress that was put upon him trying to work all this out. And anyway, so obviously, I'm a big proponent of getting wills
yeah.
in place. And if it's a spouse situation, making sure that the home is titled in the correct way. So that it flows easily from them. But I attended one of your workshops, actually two workshops in the past, and you said something that I really liked, and it's your five rights. It's your you've got to get the right people with the right authority at the right time with the right instructions in the right professions. So expand on that a little bit and the importance of that with planning.
Sure. Americans love to talk about rights. So this is why I talk about the five rights. I'm like, yeah, I've got rights. I want my rights. But I sort of turn it on its head a little bit. These are things that you've got to get right or your family's going to be disappointed. And just like you said, right people. Who are that? Who are the right people? Well, it's very often family members. And what do I mean? People for what? Well, if you become disabled or when you die, who's going to be in charge of financial matters? If you do become disabled, who's in charge of the healthcare matters? Who gets to make those decisions? Talk to the doctors. If you're unconscious, you want your wife in there doing it, and you don't want to have for her to have to go through the court process of being appointed guardian to be able to do that.
Mhm.
That's where the healthcare directive comes in. Agents really fall into those two categories: the legal and financial um, type, and then the medical type. And so the legal and financial, we're talking about power of attorney agents, we're talking about executors and wills, and successor trustees when there's a trust plan in place. You got the right people and the right time, meaning when do you want to be able to act? You don't want to delay. If I'm crossing the street later this afternoon, I get run over by a truck. I don't want my wife to have to go through some process before she can start um, calling the lawyer to sue the person that ran me over, to get access to 401k or IRA money to help pay bills in the meantime. I don't want to have her to have to go through some process. So I want her agency to be effective immediately. That's the right time. Um, and then the right authority. Did I skip one? Did I go time? It's a senior moment, Philip.
You're at the right place. People, authority, time,
Oh,
instruction, and professions.
authority. So that authority would be the legal and financial authority or the healthcare authority. And then time, you want that effective immediately in almost all cases with estate planning. And then the right instructions. The beauty of a trust plan and a will, for example, for your executors. And my heart goes out to that the college age son that you talked about earlier. I mean, I
Mhm.
imagine a situation where he had no idea what to do next. And one of the nice things about planning is you actually give a roadmap to the family so they know what directions to go. And that's what I'm talking about when I say instructions.
Mhm.
Not just merely the authority to make some decisions, but also some guidance as to what's important to you so that your values are reflected in those instructions. And you haven't left family members or loved ones at sea about what to do next. So that's the instructions part. So you want them to have the authority, but you also want to give them an idea what to do with the authority. And then finally, the professionals part is making sure that as you design a plan, you speak to the right professionals. Um, you already alluded to making sure that the deed on the house is correct for married folks. Usually that means joint with right of survivorship. That's where qualified real estate professionals can come in. Talking to somebody who's had experiences. I'm sure you've had several where houses weren't titled that way, and there's a big pile of red tape for the family on those.
We have another situation, or had another situation where, yes, the uh, house was not titled correctly. We ended up, anyway, it was a hassle.
Yeah. Well, I've been involved in situations where I've been reached out to where there's a sale pending. Oh my gosh, we find out the title's not right. We now have to wait for the court process to get that title straightened out so that the sale can go forward. And very often you lose a contract in the meantime. And
Mhm.
so But that's what I'm talking about with the right professionals, real estate professionals, CPAs, people who have experience with taxes. What's the smart financial thing to do? Financial planners, making sure that many families have taken the time to make a financial plan. If we're starting here, here's where we want to get, and they work with a qualified financial planner to implement those goals. Having somebody like that who can make sure that the plan that an attorney, me, puts in place actually is in accord with those. It doesn't frustrate it. My job, I think, as an estate planner, is to make sure that what we do goes along in concert with what's important to the family. We're not trying to invent something new for the family to have to do something a new way.
Right.
So that's where that fifth right is working with the right professionals comes in. And I think it's a bookend to that first one. You want to work with the right agents, which very often are family members. Sometimes I've got folks that don't have anybody who don't have anybody in the family who can balance a checkbook or is very good with money. So sometimes that means a professional agent in those places, but working with the right folks. And I like that the rights 1 and 5 have to do with people, because really that's what estate planning is all about, is making sure that folks are taken care of the way they want to be.
Right, exactly. One thing that we have discussed in the past in some of your workshops is the case of, now I'm drawing a blank. She was in Florida many years ago. Some people probably won't remember.
Terry Schiavo.
Schiavo, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
you got
I
it.
swear, senior moments indeed. So the situation was that she had a catastrophic injury and then was incapacitated, and there was a big struggle. The courts got involved, and she ended up in a nursing home or something for years,
For years.
and that could have been avoided.
That's right. And her husband, she had this traumatic brain injury. And her husband went to the medical professional, said, Terry and I have talked about this. We had long heart-to-heart talks, and we feel the same way. Neither one of us would want to continue on. I think we should withdraw treatment, which the doctor said, great. Just we can start that. It didn't say great, said that's something that we can, a process we can begin, but we'll need to start with your paperwork. And he said, well, we don't have any paperwork. And that's where the problem came in, because her family said, that's not how Terry felt at all. And her husband said, yes, that is what was important to her. And to me, what really stands out is that we know her name. We're talking about her. Maybe continuing treatment was what she wanted. Maybe discontinuing treatment was what she wanted. You can feel any way you want to about that, but I just know it's none of my business.
Mhm.
And I've been doing estate planning workshops since probably 2009, 2010. I think I've asked every room I've ever been in if they recognize the name Terry Schiavo. I've never been in a room of people, and I've done workshops that have about 8 people in them. I've done workshops with about 50 people in them. I've never been in a room where no one knew who she was.
Mhm.
And that's the point I try and bring home, is that what her wishes are lost in this. All we know is that there was a conflict, and before all said and done, the legislature of Georgia, or Florida rather, legislature of Florida, the governor of Florida, the president, the Pope, everybody's got an opinion. We've got People Magazine and Lifetime movies, and she sort of gets lost in all that. So it's critical that's that healthcare directive. In Georgia, we call it the Advanced Directive for Healthcare, where you can lay out not only who your agent should be if you're unconscious, but also what we've thought of in the past as the living will.
Mhm.
The instructions for treatment. Should you become gravely ill, continue treatment or pull the plug. And that one, if nobody takes anything away from any of my workshops or this podcast today, get yourself a good healthcare directive in place, properly executed, so your family's not at sea, because that's just a wrenching time for the family, and it gives them a lot of comfort.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's shift gears a little bit. When you were a little boy, did you write in your diary, "Dear diary, I want to write wills when I grow up"?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your background. You are a former prosecutor,
Yeah,
correct?
that's right. Yeah.
So how did you make this shift into this?
I had no idea I'd spend all my time talking to people about death and dying and how the law interacts with that. and disability. No, I started out my legal career. I spent about 12 and a half years as a prosecutor in Rockdale County, Gwinnett County. Prosecuted crimes against children for about 5 years, and left the DA's office in 2005 and was a general practitioner from that point forward. And general practitioner means I've got a law degree. You got a problem? Come on in. I can help you. And among the folks that came to see me, there were a lot of, I did a lot of divorce litigation. Former prosecutors tend to do a lot of divorce work because they're comfortable in the courtroom. I did criminal defense work, again, comfortable in the courtroom. But among those folks that came to see me, early on, I had some folks with old wills that needed them updated. And I helped folks, I started out with just very basic form practice, simply updating what folks had. But I was really drawn to the work based on my experience in prosecution and with my other clients in private practice. So often I was in a situation where the bad thing had already happened.
Mm.
We were just trying to clean it up, do the best we could. And as well as you can do in a court case, you can't really undo the problem.
Mhm.
What really appealed to me about estate planning was that it's planning. It's proactive rather than reactive. My undergrad degree is engineering, so I think that appeals that appeals to me. But also, it struck me that so many of my clients were in a bad situation, miserable, and wanted a quick fix. There are no quick fixes. My estate planning clients were being proactive. The only reason anybody ever comes to see me is because they love their family and they want things to go well. What a great kind of person to spend your day with. I mean, every day I meet with a series of folks who just care about their family and want to get it right. And so that was really what drew me to making the change in my practice.
Very good. Very good. If you can stick around, we'll do part two,
Oh, sure.
and we'll talk about the scintillating world of probates, trusts, guardianship, and conservatorship, and anything that I might not have asked. Is that
Sounds
cool?
great. Sounds
All right.
great.
See you soon.